Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of Jesse's Junk Mail, brought to you by the makers of me. Um, all right. So yesterday didn't make a video. Went to a football game and screwed around and got my schedules mixed up and ended up at the wrong school. Empty football field. So I got a message said. Come over here. We got a game going on over here. So I ran over there. What a wonderful, awesome, amazing time. I'll talk a little more about that later. But for today, just the thing I want to talk about is something that I was discussing with my brother and a couple of other people, and I feel pretty strong about it. Once again, it's another hot topic as far as that big red button that nobody wants to press, but everybody sees. So let's see. If I look at the reports, I want to get all my information right. So recently aired by WVUE TV, players in a Jefferson Parish High School, I believe the name of the high school was Bonnabel High School in Kenner, recently, instead of standing and putting their hand over their hearts for the flag, which is normally the case of the helmet, however it is they do it, recently an entire team at Bonnabel High School, from my understanding, knelt. Now I'm not overly familiar with all this, but I did read up on how all this was started. They are giving credit to some NFL quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, and repeated his statements on cops killing black people. I don't want to give any light to this man at all. That's his right. The fact of the matter is, let me back up just a minute. It's their right. I don't think it's correct. I don't think it's respectful. I don't feel as to where you're old enough to make that particular decision just yet as to the difference between right and wrong and what takes place in this country as far as those huge movements that are, well, this is a race issue. I mean, a lot of people say this really is a race issue. And me being from the background that I'm from, I'm used to dealing with all kinds of races and nationalities and everything, so it works for me. But so they knelt. Don't have a problem with it. Think it's disrespectful. I think as parents, I think the parents should have gone down there to the field and dumped your child in the back of the head. This is, for me, I need you to understand, this is a respect thing. And as that sheriff stated from Jefferson Parish, there are men and women that put their lives on the line every day. They suit up and put the badge on. I was an officer for years. I knew how I felt. And I know others that still feel the same way. So I'm very much behind our police officers. Yes, there's some bad ones. I'm not saying they're not. Don't get it twisted. But there are some amazing officers that continue to give members of the public chance after chance after chance when they could, by bare rights, be arrested. You know, the whole use of force thing, everybody wants that called into question. Stop resisting. You don't need an answer. We pay them to protect us. If they see something funny going on, they want to stop and question us, they can do that. We have given them the authority to do that. If it turns into a ruckus, it is because someone has done something the officer told them not to do. Now, if you feel it's your right and you want to wear that shoe, lace that bad boy up and wear it. When an officer snatches you up and escorts you to the ground, don't get salty because he did it. Because before he did it, I guarantee you, he gave you ample time to correct your attitude or to fix what you were doing. Now that's it. I was an officer for years. I've seen officers do it wrong, and I've seen them do it right. So, regardless of what the media footage shows you, there are always two sides to a story. I'm not saying that our boys in blue are always right, but the fact is, they get dressed every day knowing that that could be their last day. So anyway, that was kind of a rant there, wasn't it? So let's go back to the high school. So the high school footballs knelt. They are in support of this NFL quarterback that refuses to kneel, and so I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but when an officer needs to make extra money, they have these things called details, and they're done when the officer is off his scheduled shift. So an officer works 12 hours. And after those 12 hours, he has the options to do a couple of things. He has the options to take a detail, which is listed. It is strictly a volunteer basis. And I think this is the thing that bothers me the most about this whole thing. This is a volunteer. So I, as an officer, could get off my shift and look and think, oh, okay. Oh, there's a football game over in Kenner. Let me sign up for that detail. I'll go. I'll work the detail. I've just volunteered to show up and protect and keep peace and order at the football game. I volunteered. The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office evidently has some deputies that made it publicly known that they will no longer be working those details at that high school due to the amount of disrespect they feel those high school students showed towards them in their profession. And you know what? Good eye. I agree 100%. Suck it up. You don't kneel during the national anthem. That's disrespectful. This is your country. Regardless of what is going on in our country, it is yours. Men and women, red, yellow, black, and white, have died for you to be able to kneel. That is your right. But in my opinion, you and your parents should be deeply ashamed of yourselves. So there's been some backlash to the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office because of this. I read a Facebook post and I even commented on it, which is something I seldom ever do. I seldom get involved in Facebook drama. But being an officer for years, I understand. So the parents are like, oh, shame, you guys are acting like children, blah, blah, blah. You know what? You guys can save that. Being an officer takes heart. And you can tell who has it and who doesn't. So for those of you that all commented on it, shame on you. As a pastor, it is my job to promote certain characteristics in people. Respect, loyalty, dignity. I will never ever side with any of this chaos that is going on against. Now, I'll disagree with our government officials in a minute. That is my right. But it is also those officers' right to say, hey, I'm not volunteering to watch over and protect those kids. It is sad that it came to that, but you know what? If a football team wants to cut up, that's a huge slap in the face. And I don't blame them at all. I do not blame them at all. That's my take on it. But let's go back to this NFL quarterback. Once again, that's his right. As a paid professional for a football team, I do want to share something with you guys, and it's on my phone, so I can't look at it. So I'm gonna paraphrase it as best I can. The owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, some of you don't shut it off just yet. The owner, I'm a Cowboys fan, I really am. The owner of the Dallas Cowboys held a meeting with everybody that worked for him on that football team. And this is what he said. And I'm going to paraphrase it. Don't crucify me. He said, "You are a paid performer, and that football field is my stage. You will stand and put your hand over your heart as a sign of respect." And basically, because I don't want to mess it up word for word, basically he said, "I will fire you. And you know what? I'll be a Cowboys fan for the rest of my life, win, lose, or draw. We are Americans." You know, I recently encountered an issue, and I stopped and thought about it because I've been doing it for years because of what I do for work. You know, when we see people, you know, I'm Caucasian or I'm white, but for everybody else, you know, they're Asian, okay? But for black people, they're classified as African Americans. I now have an issue with that. I think that's wrong. You are an American. In doing all the studies and looking at everybody and all the opinions waved in, you're an American, regardless of the color of your skin. So, that's how I feel about it. Young people, adults, Jesse supports your right. I have every right to disagree with it. So, Bonneville High School football team and the parents, very disappointed in you. But that's your right. Let's see, that's not right. A little thing just showed up. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, outstanding. Outstanding. There's always going to be an officer that doesn't care about anything but the money, and he'll do it. He doesn't care about the issues. So that's okay. There's always going to be some form of security there. But for you guys that stood up and said, "Hey, I'm not supporting this if they don't have faith in me," good eye. Good eye. I'm not saying it to be violent or anything, but it's just unacceptable. Just unacceptable. So yeah, that's basically where we're at as far as that goes. That was my opinion. I thought about it for 2 days. I wanted to give it some time to sit in, so I didn't say anything offensive. Not that I'm worried about offending anybody, but there's always a way to word something to where you can get your point across without overstepping that line. And I believe this does it. So anyway, so there we have it. Dallas Cowboys, outstanding. At least I know if Mr. Colin Kaepernick had been on that team, he would have been fired. I think that's great. I have every right in the world as an American, and I exercise my rights. But I also work for an organization where if they tell me I'm going to do something and I fail to do it, I'm fired. That's how this country works. That's great. You go, they provide my money, I provide the service they're asking me to do for them, for their customers. Boom, we're good to go. Yeah, sanctions, you should be sanctioned in some form or fashion if you haven't already, Mr. Colin. Because look at what others have seen you do and are now doing. You're promoting disrespect for our country. Unacceptable. You know, and I wouldn't consider myself overly patriotic, but, you know, God bless our men and women in blue. and God bless America, because aside from all these clowns in the news that do everything to embarrass us, we are still a great country. I don't care what anybody says. So that's my thoughts on it. That's my views on it. I think I hit all the points that I wanted to as far as the football game goes. I'll talk about what happened at the football game in another video. It's probably going to be a more ministry-minded type thing when I speak about what went on there. But we lost the football game, but you guys played with your heart. I'm proud of you. But you'll be glad to know nobody knelt at our games. I can guarantee you that. Thank you guys so much for listening to listening like it's a radio show. Thank you for tuning in to Jesse's Junk Mail. If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, don't like it. That's your right too. Bradley suggested tomorrow's video, we are covering comic books. I'm excited about that. I'm very passionate about it. It brought back a whole wave of nostalgia. So be ready for tomorrow's video. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hit the point I wanted to, and hopefully it stops and makes you think. Either way, I love you. God loves you. Be blessed. And stop kneeling during the national anthem. That ain't right.